Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and today we are back with more news and politics from around the world. Today we'll start off with this. This is just something I thought was interesting. Prom drama in Vandalia after trans youth voted out. This story was from Ohio. I think it was the Ohio Reddit. Yeah, Reddit/Ohio. But it goes. Emily was elected to prom court a few weeks ago. I cannot explain her excitement, but it was high. There was also a kid who is a trans male on the court running for king. A certain high ranking member, who is deeply religious, of the district administration took issue with a biological female running for prom king and tried to have the kid removed from the prom court. Kids' parents threatened a lawsuit for discrimination. This was the solution. As a pastor's wife, I understand that he is in disagreement, but sometimes we cannot use our beliefs to deprive other people. I don't believe something or disagree. Uh, if I don't believe something or disagree, I don't involve myself. How others live is none of my business. Jesus said, "Love thy neighbor." There is no except this or that. Just love people. Fucking exactly. Thank you so much. Some people can't seem to understand this. Let me take a look at the letter. Do I have something I can see it? Oh, there we go. From Butler High School. Congratulations on being selected for the Butler High School 2023 prom court. As a reminder, the red carpet event begins at 7:30 and begins at 8 and prom begins at 8 p.m. This letter is to inform you that there will not be a vote for king or queen this year, and consequently prom king and queen will not be named. After the initial announcement of prom court, it was brought to our attention that there were concerns with the nomination process. As we investigated, we found that there were several irregularities, including juniors who voted even though court selections were only open to seniors, students who voted for more candidates than they were instructed, and voting after the deadline. Ultimately, we were able to confirm that there were students who should have qualified for prom court and were not included in the initial announcement. We have since added those students to the prom court. However, this did not allow us enough time to run a vote for prom queen, king and queen. We will take a prom court photo during prom and the DJ will make an announcement. We're looking forward to a great day on Saturday. So yeah, because some asshole was like, "My religion says you shouldn't be doing this." No, your religion says you're supposed to treat people fairly, but you don't follow the parts you disagree with. Just what allows you to hate and despise. But yeah, I found that interesting. Okay, this is from the lever. University of California bails out eviction happy private equity. Yeah, the school pumped billions into a Blackstone real estate fund eager to evict tenants and jack up student rents in the midst of a major housing crisis. As the world's largest private equity firm faces potential losses from a cloudy real estate market, its executives blocked jittery investors from withdrawing their money from one of its real estate funds while insisting that rent increases and evictions will bolster returns. Now, the Blackstone Group's real estate investment trust has received a multi-billion-dollar bailout from a source whose employees and students are already suffering through the housing crisis, California's public university system. I believe there should be no state function, state entity, whether it be federal, state level, local, no bailing out companies like that. No. Just months after Blackstone's real estate investment trust purchased America's largest owner of private student housing, the same trust received a $4.5 billion infusion from the University of California's Board of Regents, two of whom have close ties to the company. So now we see how things go. The investment rewards the financial firm only a few years after the company and its executives spent $5.6 million to kill California ballot initiatives that would have expanded rent control in the state. This is why I and the great percentage of Americans hate companies like Blackstone. They're vultures, parasites. But here's another story. Fox can claim tax write-off for defamation settlement. The company can deduct the cost of its $787 million payout to Dominion over its election lies. Fox's massive settlement with private equity-backed voting machine company Dominion Voting Systems didn't just spare the conservative news organization from a lengthy public defamation trial or a full public reckoning for its election lies. It could also mean a tax break as large as $213 million, according to a Lever review. You should not be able to write off defamation settlements if you're a giant company like that. I mean, seriously, why allow companies this freedom to just, nah, I don't think we should have to pay it. Bitch! It's your fucking fault! But they don't care. And we got the Smartmatic defamation lawsuit next, right around the corner. This is from ProPublica. In secret recording, a top city library official calls Alaska natives woke and racist. Oh, Lord. Despite Judy Elledge's history of inflammatory comments and social media posts, Alaska's governor has awarded her public money and a national role. What's more, city and state agencies meant to protect Alaskan civil rights have been hamstrung. Alaska's governors and mayors have at various times appointed Judy Elledge to the State Board of Education, the Anchorage Health and Human Services Commission, and the Alaska Juvenile Justice Advisory Committee. She stood at the side of Governor Mike Dunleavy, a personal friend, on the night of his 2018 public Republican primary victory. When it came time for the state to cast its electoral college votes in 2020 presidential election, Elledge was one of the three people representing Alaska. And in his annual State of the State speech earlier that year, Dunleavy asked her to stand for an ovation because she exemplified the heart of Alaska. But on March the 14th, 2022, she surreptitiously taped in a surreptitiously taped conversation with a coworker in her office on the top floor of one of Alaska's largest public libraries. A different side of Elledge came out as visitors waited in the lobby for a meeting with the city of Anchorage's deputy library director. She lowered her voice to a whisper. Elledge said she had spotted one of the workers she supervised removing books that contained the word Eskimo, a term that is now seen by many as unacceptable. This was exactly the kind of behavior Elledge has repeatedly told her city underlings that Anchorage Mayor Dave Bronson hired her to stamp out. I happen to live in Barrow, she said, referring to the mostly Inupiat city that residents in 2016 renamed Utqiagvik. They consider themselves Inupiat Eskimos, but they got a bunch of woke liberal, I consider racist, native people, young people. It's all about we stole their land, which is both motherfucker. Do you not know your own? They lived here before your dumb fucking ass ever did, bitch. Elledge, 76, seamlessly moved from topic to topic, sharing her disgust with the use of indigenous land acknowledgments and the sharing of pronouns. She called transgender people very troubled and said she was surprised that her recent public testimony against transgender girls participating in girls' school sports had not made the front page of the Anchorage Daily News. Equitable, to me, is a racist word. People like this bitch should not be in positions of power. She can fuck off. Equitable is a racist word, she said to her subordinate who recorded the conversation because she feared no one would believe her about how Elledge interacted with her colleagues. At one point, Elledge noted the library employees were working to wipe out everything white in the world. You stupid racist ass. Oh, I'm white. They're trying to wipe me from existence. Get over your fucking self. This is from ProPublica as well. The federal government accidentally burned down their house, then made it hard to come home. FEMA told survivors of the largest wildfire in New Mexico history that it aimed to put temporary housing on their land, but because of its strict, slow moving bureaucracy, That has happened only twice. The wildfire had already burned 160 square miles of northern New Mexico forest. Last spring, when it suddenly surged ahead, reducing to ash the cozy cabin Dave Martinez had built for himself more than 2 decades earlier. Martinez, now 64, had fled days before, one of 15,000 people ordered to leave as the fire spread. He spent the next 3 months sleeping near the edge of the fire in his pickup truck, his physical and mental health declining from the smoke, stress, and lack of sleep. Desperate for shelter, he spent $5,000 or so of the emergency aid he had received from FEMA on a down payment for a late 90s Vacationaire travel trailer. He placed it on the site of his old cabin in Monte Aplanado, about 35 miles northeast of Santa Fe. He calls it the Tin Can. Its heater is broken. The cold creeps through its thin walls. Wind rattles the wood cabinets, but it's all he could afford. A year ago, 2 runaway fires set by the U.S. Forest Service converged to become the Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon wildfire. It rode 74-mile-per-hour wind gusts engulfing dozens of homes in a single day as it tore through canyons and over mountains. The blaze became the biggest wildfire on the continental U.S. in 2022 and the biggest in New Mexico history, and it was the federal government's fault. A lot of the bureaucracy needs trimmed. There needs to be shears taken to it. But here is a story from commondreams.org. Let's go ahead and close that. Can't win, so they cheat. GOP tries to keep abortion rights off ballot after big losses. Republican lawmakers pushing these efforts want 41% of voters to block ballot initiatives so that 59% of voters support. This is not democracy. Nope, that is not how democracy works. Last year, after the U.S. Supreme Court ended the federal right to abortion, voters in Kansas, California, Michigan, Vermont, Kentucky, and Montana used the ballot initiative process to show their support for reproductive freedom, both by defeating GOP-backed anti-abortion measures and approving constitutional amendments aimed at preserving abortion access. The losses for anti-abortion Republicans and their wealthy backers have led to the party to ramp up its attacks on the ballot initiative process itself in several states. The biggest and most immediate fight is in Ohio, where a coalition of abortion rights groups is collecting signatures to place a constitutional amendment on the ballot in November that would prohibit the state from banning abortion before a fetus becomes viable outside the womb at about 24 weeks of pregnancy. Organizers were confident that the measure would reach the simple majority needed for passage, given polls showed that most Ohioans, like most Americans, support legalized abortion and disapprove of overturning Roe. But Republicans in the state legislature were advancing a ballot amendment of their own that would raise the percentage of votes required to pass future such measures to a 60% supermajority. The measure has passed the Ohio Senate and is expected to pass the House this week. So it's rule by minority. That's what they're trying to accomplish because they know their position is not popular with the American people. So they're trying to enforce rule by minority. I hate people like that. This is from Talking Points Memo. Trump was at a meeting where loyalists discussed plans to break into voting machines. You'll remember that in the waning days of the Trump presidency, a crew of conspiracy theorizing loyalists pushed the president to use the federal government to seize voting machines and investigate his bogus claims of fraud. Those plans never became reality, but Trump's supporters did take matters into their own hands, breaching voting machines in locations around the country to try and substantiate Trump's big lie. Yeah, I'm not surprised one bit. This is from Bloomberg. Clarence Thomas's billionaire friend did have business before the Supreme Court. The justice didn't recuse himself from rejection of architecture firm case. Harlan Crow said he had no knowledge of or involvement in the case. But apparently he did. I saw another story on Reddit similar to this. I should have clicked it. I hate the whole, oh, please subscribe. No, I'm not paying. But anyway. Okay. Yeah, that's where I got it in Reddit. So, okay. The next story we're going to read, world military spending reaches an all-time high of 2.4 trillion. Surge in spending reflects Russia-Ukraine war, an increasingly insecure world, according to leading think tank. We need crackdowns on the military-industrial complex. I've said this multiple times before. If we have to, nationalize them. But yeah, they're almost an entity unto themselves, or think they are. Because, oh, we'll sell to whoever wants to buy our weapons we make. How about we nationalize your ass and you are forced to work only under watch? This is from the BBC. Goldman Prize honors Indigenous woman who stopped mining giant. Leader of Brazil's Indigenous Munduruku community has been recognized for a successful fight against mining in the Amazon rainforest. Alessandra Corap Munduruku 39 has been awarded this year's Goldman Prize, which recognizes grassroots activism. Mining giant Anglo-American. Okay. Withdrew 27 research applications to mine inside indigenous territories. All these companies want to do business in indigenous territory, even in the U.S. Enough. That should, no. We're in the land of greed. It's all about capitalism. Yeah, it's all about greed. Let's make that money and fuck everyone else. No, fuck you. Fuck you and your greed. This is from Iran Wire. Iranian woman dies after fight over forced hijab rules. An Iranian woman died after a fist fight erupted between security forces and a group of people opposed to mandatory hijab regulations in the southern city of Kerman, local media reported. The fight erupted in a park on April 23rd when members of a paramilitary Basij force warned visitors about hijab violations and people came to support women without a headscarf. It said a 60-year-old woman suffered a cardiac arrest and later died in the hospital. The semi-official Fars news agency confirmed the death but described the conflict as a fight between several passengers and a group of people. And finally, also in talking about Iran, remember I had one of my news from around the world and stuff stories last week, and I said there could be a chance this could lead us down the road to a world war. This makes it look the same way. Iran ships 300,000 artillery shells and 1 million rounds of ammunition to Russia within 6 months. I want to say, why can't everybody just sit down and talk? But I know why. Military industrial complex. There's big money to be made in military spending. Eisenhower warned us, says we can't, allow that kind of thing to go on. But as we went, it happened more and more regularly. But yeah. If you want to find out what I'm talking about, Eisenhower warned us. I've got a video where he gives a speech warning us about what is a potential military industrial complex that's forming in the United States, where there's such a tie between making and selling of weapons and ammo and the money that's made from it. Yeah. But I'll go ahead and end this episode here. As always, yeah, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tries to tell you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting sources in the description box below the video. I appreciate y'all for watching. See y'all in the next one. Until then, later.